Can I just press that little button? This has got it.
Yeah.
There's my face.
You're on.
Ready? Okay. Hey, I'm Amy Koranek. I'm a Sculpey brand ambassador, and thank you for attending our designer showcase of all things Sculpey. Okay, so should I hit that button again, or?
Yeah.
There's this little message here. Thanks for joining us in the Sculpey Design Studio for the Sculpey Designer Showcase, and I'm Amy Koranek, Sculpey brand ambassador. So just about in the last hour, Jen took us through all the fantastic products that are in the Sculpey family, and so now I'm going to showcase some of those with some demonstrations and show you like all kinds of tips and techniques. And we're also going to take a look at the piece I designed for the Studio Mojo Designer Mashup, which took place this morning live through both Sculpey and through Mojo 2. So let's get started and let's play with some clay. All right. Okay.
It's not letting me share.
Not letting you share.
It's not letting me share to
the overhead.
No, to Mojo.
Oh, okay.
Technical difficulties. Again. I think it's just taking a long time to catch up.
Yeah. Hang on, people. This is a group effort, and we're doing our best. And
okay, so it should be in Mojo 2 and on Sculpey right now.
Correct. We're trying to make sure all of our customers in both Mojo 2 and Sculpey are getting to see the same video content. And then, so Kate, there's my overhead. Is that cool?
Yep, if you see overhead, then we are good.
Okay, so here I am at my little workstation, and I have put together some demonstrations. Now, the demo that I'm going to start with is featuring Primo and Souffle used together. And Jen talked a little bit about our new Primo/Souffle multi-kit. Primo comes in 54 colors and Souffle comes in 24. And they are the most popular clays for making jewelry. And there's a few reasons why. Primo has the property of having great strength, which is really important for jewelry making. Believe it or not, jewelry itself takes a lot of wear and tear. And so you want clay that is really strong and durable. Your jewelry pieces can get knocked around by your seat belt and your handbag purse and your straps and all kinds of things like that. So you do want to select clays that are a lot stronger, and that would be Primo, and that would also be Souffle. Another great thing about Primo is that it's super great for color mixing. And the Primo palette is based on an artist's paint palette that helps you mix colors together with a predictable outcome. So that's a couple cool things about Primo that comes in 54 colors. Also, Primo has some inclusions in it. We have some Primo that has mica and some Primo that has glitter and some Primo that has other elements like translucence. And this that I'm using right here, this is one of my favorite colors. It's called Gray Granite, and it has this marvelous little black fleck running through it, which I think is just awesome. So I'm just working on my little geometric terrazzo slab here while I talk to you. And slabs are, just quickly, I'll tell you that slabs are a great way that artists are using polymer today to make pieces with very little waste. They're rolling out sheets of clay, and they are adding little slices of bits of clay to the top. This is a finished piece made with a terrazzo color scheme here. And this is also another terrazzo patterned type of piece. But anyway, terrazzo gives you a great way to use up little bits of colors, and it gives you very little waste because you're making it in a sheet and you just keep adding colors on top. And then you can just divide up the sheet however you want to be used in your projects. So right now I'm adding some Primo Galaxy glitter. which is a navy clay with some really spectacular sparkly glitter in it. When I make a terrazzo sheet, I like to make, like for the geometric terrazzo, which is what this one is, I like to make like sort of a neutral and even a light colored background, because I feel it really highlights the little pieces I'm putting on top. So I made this one mostly at home, and I'm just finishing it off here so you can see all the different ways. The first one, the gray granite, I just pinched those off and put them down. This galaxy glitter, I did that by shaving pieces right from the bar. And then between each piece, I'm going over it with a roller to make sure all my pieces are really flattened into place. So I'm just going to keep working on this little sheet while I also talk to you about the real great benefits of using souffle clay. And in both of these, the terrazzo and the floral slab that I'm going to show you next, I'm using both Primo and souffle. And this piece here, this is Peacock Pearl, which is another of my favorite colors. And I'm just shaving little bits from a rope and adding those in. And I try to do this really randomly, just to, I don't want it to make it look too planned. And we have lots and lots of video instruction about terrazzo sheets and floral sheets in numerous colorways. So you can find all that on our website, and that's all free content. So just added some little peacock pearl slivers there. Next, I'm going to add some little 18 karat gold dots. And I kind of like to make each of the colors that I'm adding sort of their own shape. Those gray granite ones, I totally pinched. The galaxy glitter ones, I totally shaved. The peacock pearl ones, I made sort of a little string and attached that. And then this 18 karat gold, I'm making just sort of little random balls and applying that clay. And by making my colors their own individual shapes, it kind of keeps me focused on what I'm doing, and then I don't go too crazy making lots and lots of different weird shapes that I hadn't anticipated. It's just kind of a way to keep myself roped in. Okay, so my terrazzo sheet is done, and we'll work on cutting some pieces out of that in just a couple minutes. This is my floral slab, and floral slabs are also very popular. Here's another colorway that one of the designers for Sculpey made. I love that. And this one's probably my favorite. I love the sparkly fuchsia background in these. And this is the necklace that I made with this very slab. So my background in this one was the souffle mixed with igloo. And souffle is also very strong, just like Primo is, but its finish is more of a matte style. And there's not accent colors in the souffle like there is in Primo, but you can totally mix Primo and souffle. And I know that Jen covered this a little bit in her behind the scenes talk. And you can totally mix the two to get whatever style and finish that you want. They bake at the same temperature, they bake for the same time, so they're completely compatible, and it just gives you that much more freedom to make your own color palette and your own finish. So for this little floral piece, this floral slab, my background is half bluestone and half igloo. Mixed those about 50-50 because for the floral designs, I often like to mix just like a really light background and maybe not necessarily white, but just a neutral sort of background that goes with my whole color scheme. And then I usually start by laying down some vine designs. And I've already done that over there, so I'm just showing you how I rolled a little rope and added that in. And next, I'm going to add some of these little petals. And the way I did that, I'm always looking for ways to make my movements quick and efficient. I've smashed this little rope out flat, and now I'm going to cut little bitty slivers with this blade, kind of cutting them all the same. I'll get rid of my end scrap. And then I'm going to take a tool, and if I flip these over, I can just kind of grab those with my tool and press them into place. And when I press them down, it's creating a texture to the little petal, and it's seating the petal in place at the same time. Because if you're new to oven baked clay, you might not realize that all these different little pieces, they actually like to stick to each other. There's no glue needed. It's just oven baked polymer clay touching oven baked polymer clay. They like to stick to each other if they're given the chance and if they're given the opportunity to really connect with each other. And so that's how my texturing techniques, like adding the petals with this tool, it textures the petal and it seats it into place with the other colors at the same time. Next, I'll just take some of my igloo and I'll roll a little bitty rope. And if I wanted to, I could just keep adding flowers to that little vine like I did the other ones. I often start with a little rope because it helps me kind of measure out the volume of clay that I want. And I'm just going to set a white bead right there in the middle. And then I'm going to cut a bunch more of these, just little tiny pieces of white. And I'll grab my smallest etch and pearl. And the etch and pearl tools come in 3 sizes, small, medium, and large, all in one set. You get a really nice pointy tip on one end and a pearl shape, like I think this is concave. Would that be the right direction? It goes in. And these sit a nice little pearl in place because they're perfectly smooth. These are aluminum, so you can also use them for baking skewers. But what I like to do is measure out a tiny bit of clay that's about the same size as the tip of my etch and pearl. And then I can just use that to sit the little tiny pearl in place. And it makes the most delicate, perfectly little round domes of clay. And I'll just set a few. You don't need to watch me do that all day. If you have any questions, we're glad to hear what your questions might be. We'll try to get those answered as soon as possible. And then I can go ahead and add some more details, like with another tool. I can just, and this again, every time you add texture and a little bit of pressure, you're helping your different layers of clay to connect. I'm going to also sit this flower center down real nicely with this ball tool. That creates a neat little convex or concave bit. And then I'm going to set a 18 karat gold dot in the middle of that. And I'll just finish it off with a little dab like so. On this piece, on the piece part that I already have done, I had used some more of this gray granite to enter in some little swishy places, swishy bits. I like swishy bits. These slabs are really fun to make because they get you in kind of a relaxed mood. You can experiment with different shapes and different textures. And oftentimes when I'm working with these slabs, I will make like a geometric one and a floral one. And then that gives you the ability to mix and match these different patterns, but in the same colorway. Sort of like fabric makers do, how when you buy a piece of fabric, you can get a plaid and a stripe and a floral, you know, all in that same colorway for quilting. And so it's a lot like that. And I'm just setting these little swishies in place. And then I'll just go back with my needle tool. The needle tool and I call this the blunt end tool, and the knife tool and this roller, they all come together in one set called the Clay Tool Starter Set. And it's just a really valuable set of 4 tools that make beginning in oven baked clays very easy and so versatile. Like Jen said in her video, all of our tools are dual ended. So you get, you know, a tool on each end. This one has a needle on one end, and then it has a really flat pressure point on the other end. And this gives you a really great way to go back in and make some really neat little details in the background. So a couple more things about the brand Souffle. Souffle comes in 24 colors, and these are more of a designer type color. They, the colors that you would see are like sea glass and canary and latte. And so colors like that work well for home decor as well as fashion jewelry design, or you can totally do your own color mixing with Souffle as well, but the colors are more opaque, and so you're going to get a different look when you do your color mixing, and it's super fun to experiment with. This is the medium Etch and Pearl, and I'm just going to use it to pick up some of these balls and set them into place in the background.
Hey, Amy.
Yes.
While you're doing that,
Mm-hmm.
can you talk about maybe some great surfaces to bake on?
Great surfaces to bake on. Yes, I can. I will talk about that while I'm showing you how to cut these out. How about that for a deal? So what I want to say about Terrazzo slabs versus floral slabs is that the Terrazzo slab comes out perfectly flat. And that makes it really easy to work with our jewelry templates, because anytime you use a jewelry template, you are kind of pulling the blade through the clay, and that works really well with very flat clays. The floral slabs are not perfectly flat. They are more raised. They have like this really neat little, raised surface to them that you really don't want to disturb. And so when you're cutting the floral slab, you'll probably be more likely to use some of our cutters, because the cutter will just go straight down through there. So as I promised, we will talk a little bit about baking surfaces, and this is a baking surface that I use super commonly. I have already got a bead rack on here, and this is a very common surface to bake on. Now it is shiny, and anytime you lay oven baked clay on a shiny surface, whatever touches that shiny surface is going to pick up the shine. And so what you could do is put down index cards, you could put down a deli sheet, anything with a matte surface, you could put that down to avoid picking up that shine. You can also, a lot of artists bake on glass, or they bake on ceramic tiles, because ceramic tiles are very inexpensive and easy to get at, any big box store. You can even get them quite inexpensively. So those are also good products to bake on. So the baking temperature of most oven baked clays is only about 275. So that's very low temperature. And so that means that a lot of items can go into your home oven, and it is a home oven at 275. So I'm going to show you how to use a template with this Terrazzo sheet, and I'm going to pick out, this is one of our jewelry templates that comes in the jewelry template pack, and I'm showing you how easy it is to pull the shape out. And so once the shape is cut, there you can see, I call this one the negative, and I call this one the positive. And so you get both pieces, and it's just totally up to you what works best for your body to go with the cutting. And so then what you can use to cut out is our 5-in-1. Our 5-in-1 tool is really good for that. This is the metal handle, and this is the metal cutting blade. So in the 5-in-1, you might find you like to use this knife-shaped cutting blade. Also, sometimes this needle tool is a great way to cut. So I'll show you how to use the 5-in-1 knife blade first. And the way I decide if I'm going to do the positive or the negative is I kind of use the template itself to protect my clay shape. And so what I mean by protect is, if I hold down the positive shape, my blade can't go underneath the positive shape and scar the clay I'm cutting. Okay, so the template itself is actually protecting my clay. Now there are going to be other instances, and I'll probably come up with one, where you would want to use the negative shape to protect the clay from a different direction. So there's my cutout shape, and that's really beautiful. Now, anytime I do a cutting, whether it be with a cutter or with a knife, I always do this little dibble dabbling around with my fingertips just to make sure that that edge is really nice and smooth. And that's just a designer tip that maybe helps set your pieces apart from others, that you just pay attention and make sure everything is super smooth. Now at this point, we could go back in here and we could use our needle tool to poke the hole. And that can be the hole that you're going to use in your jewelry construction. Once I've marked the hole, I'll go all the way through one way, and then I'll go all the way through from the back side as well to make that hole super nice and neat. We have lots of tools in our lineup that make great holes for jewelry construction. You just have to, determine which one works best for your method of working. Now, I want this area right here, but I've got a little stray guy, so I just pull him out with my knife. And I'm going to go over here and cut another one. And this could be used in the making of a pair of earrings. So I'll just go around the outside. And I'll use the tip of my knife to carefully lift that up. I can use my blade to kind of loosen it from my work surface. This surface that I'm working on right now is a Sculpey, a silicone oven baked clay mat. And they are really, really good for protecting work surfaces. When you're working with any oven baked clay, you want to always protect fine furniture from the clay itself, because until you bake it, it has plasticizer in it, and you would just want to make sure that your clay pieces are well taken care of and that your furniture is well taken care of. So that you have a good relationship going both directions there with your clay and with your furniture. Let me show you a different way to poke a hole. Sometimes I like really well to use this 2mm ball tool. You might not think of that as a good hole poker, but I believe it is. I just hold my tool straight up and down and poke straight down, and then I give it a little wiggle, pull it back out, and then I do the same thing. I flip it back over and go back the other way, pushing that excess clay to the inside. And the reason I like this tool is because it makes a little bit larger hole. The hole is still super neat, but sometimes when you're assembling with jump rings, you want a little bit bigger hole to give your jump rings the freedom to kind of spin and help your earrings dangle better. So now I've evened that out. Okay. So there's two jewelry elements from the Terrazzo. I'm going to set that aside for now and pull my floral back in. And let's see what we could do with that. Let's use some cutters to cut this floral piece. And what I kind of want to do is think about maybe making some dangle earrings with a different size with a piece on the top. Like this set of dangles is arches that incorporate these circles on top. This one is sort of a more fancy and textured shape with these little dangles on top. So if we're thinking about that kind of a style, we want to have a complementary piece on the top that's much smaller. And we could audition a couple different ideas. We have teardrop shaped cutters, we have circles, we have squares. And first I might just like think about, this one's really cool. It has a circle on top of an oval. Love that. I might just want to think about, what would look good above this, and I could just use my cutters to kind of audition how I want it to look and what size I want that additional piece to be. So this one might look too big, but I want to show you how to use the cutter, and I want to do a really good demo so that you can see what I'm actually doing. So what you can do with your floral designs like this is you can use your cutter to audition, the look that you want. Like you can look right down through the cutter and say, oh, well, that would be really cute, or this one might be really cute. Or you might even opt to only get the side of a flower and not like the whole thing. And I like this look right here. And I'm going to cut straight down like that. And then I give it a little spin. But when I cut that out, I noticed that I don't have a lot of detail going out here. So I can just take my detail tools and go back in there and add some details in. And it looks like it was, you know, there all the time and part of it. So you can always feel free, as long as you haven't baked your pieces, you know, to add more and more detail. So there you could have like a pair of dangle earrings with your floral piece on top and your terrazzo piece on the bottom. Then I would cut out another piece to go with this one. And I might want to go with something altogether different on this side. And I'm going to add a little more detail here too. I like making these slabs because to me they're like real doodly. It's almost like doodle drawing, but you get to doodle in clay. It's very relaxing and freestyle. Okay, next you want to determine, you know, how you're going to bake these pieces. Do you want them to be flat pieces? Do you want them to be curved? We have our hollow bead maker, which is great for baking flat pieces on. And the outcome of that, I'll also give you some examples of how that can work. The hollow bead maker has 5 different sizes, and it has 2 of each. That way you can make perfectly matched pieces, you know, depending on which size that you're going for. And so and they don't have to be circles. You could even do, like here, I've done feathers. So another important thing to note is that our hollow bead maker is sized perfectly to go with all of our cutters. So we have different sizes of cutters that you can match up, and that tells you which dome that you can, you know, put the piece on. So first, I'll show you how I did this pendant piece. This is from the same slab, and I actually did curve it on the hollow bead maker. So I'll show you how I did that, and then we'll make the earrings to match. So that was a little bit bigger cutter, which I don't see right here. So I will use this small, I'll grab mine out of this basket. I've got more cutters here. There's one missing in that set, so I'll just take another one. I think that was not it. This was the size I want, and it goes right with that middle one. And so I want to just audition the piece that I want to focus my necklace design on. And I think I'll just take this one right over here with kind of the little flower off center and cut straight down all the way to the work surface, give it a little bitty spin, and then just lift that piece out. Now, I want to position this on one of my domes, and you can either put it on the dome that matches exactly, or if you want to kind of play around with how deeply the dome goes, you don't have to put it on the exact matching one. You could put it on a little bit shallower area, and you want to just delicately, because this is a flower slab, you want to just real delicately press it into place. Yes. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Kate. Here you guys go. You just want to real delicately. For a second there, I thought I was at home in my studio, just talking to myself, and I was running amok off camera, which I have a tendency to do. So thanks for telling me. So just delicately tap that down so that you're not smudging all your beautiful work there. And then give it a look and see if there's places where you want to add like a little more detail. I'm going to add some little clusters with this ball tool just to really fill it up with lots of information and stuff to look at. Okay, and another tip that you can do is you can go ahead and add the hole that you need to this curved piece on the hollow bead maker. So in this design, I chose to have 2 holes at the top for the chain, and then I have this little dingle dangle down at the bottom. So that's like a triangle of holes. And so I'll just go for that again, just to show you how that works out. So just look at your design and determine where you want it to hang, how you want the piece to hang. And maybe I'll make my vine go across the design. And so I would want a chain holder here. And this time I'm pushing my ball tool in at the same angle that the clay lays on the hollow bead maker. I'm not pushing straight down because the clay isn't laying straight down. It has a curve to it at that point. And then I need another one way down here for the dingle dangle. So that's 3 holes. And then that can go right in the oven. When it comes out of the oven, it is good to go for your assembly. Okay. So the hollow bead maker is really a fun way to explore making curved pieces. And like these earrings, if we wanted to, we could even curve them just by pressing them on here. Give them a real, Kara, I'm off camera again, give them a real gentle curve by adding these teardrop pieces to the biggest area. Just making sure it's laying real flat on there. And then if I wanted to, I could either bake these flat or I could curve them as well. But I think I'll keep those ones flat. So these can go on a flat baking sheet with a piece of cardstock underneath them. And this is ready to go right into the oven. Now, while we are talking about the hollow bead maker, let's finish up some thoughts with that. Here's another hollow bead maker that I've got loaded. And I want to show off some different designs that people have done. This was a hollow bead maker silk screen piece. And then it's actually several layers piled on top. It's silkscreen, gold on souffle. And then the back is another hollow bead maker, but it was only a ring. It wasn't a whole solid piece. And then down inside there, you can see yet another piece that is the opposite curve. And what that did was gave me this cute little hideaway place to put a charm, and that there's like a little bird in there with some crystal beads. And then when I glued the front to the back, I wanted to make it look really finished. So I used some of our Primo antique gold clay, which perfectly matched my paint color. And I made this nice little, almost like a faux bezel that goes around and covers up the seam between the front and the back. Here's a very simple piece that shows you the seam between the front and the back. This is gold Primo with overlays of pearl liquid Sculpey mandalas. That's from our mandala mold. I baked the liquid Sculpey mandalas first, and then I applied them to the fresh Primo because liquid Sculpey loves to attach itself to Primo or Souffle. There's no glue involved. It's just a baked mandala pressed into a raw Primo. Then once they were baked on the hollow bead maker and you pop them off, you have this little rim here. And what you want to do is just simply lay that down on some sandpaper and take that little rim off, and do the same with this one, take that little rim off. And then those are good to go to be glued with your favorite instant drying glue, and it just sandwiches them perfectly together. So those are some ways that you can finish pieces using the hollow bead maker. Okay, now I just need to take a second and look at my notes and make sure that I am on track and covering everything. And I think I'm doing pretty okay. Now let's go back and talk about what you can do as far as using up some of this clay, because I was bragging about how there's very little scrap with these slabs, and that is very, very true. There's very little scrap, but still there is going to be some weird waste on the edges. And what I like to do is just pull that off, and I'll do the same thing here. And I have these little bits that I had gotten at home when I was preparing all of this. And what I like to do is just ball up these scraps. And I kind of ball them up in such a way where if there's any like colorful information attached, that ends up being on the outside. Because what we're going to do is we're going to marble this clay all together. And so if there's any cool colors in there, I want those to show. So I've just wadded up these bits. Here's another good bit that's got some of that peacock pearl on it. So I've just wadded up my little scraps because nothing has to go to waste with the oven baked clay. You're in charge here. You can use it however you want. Maybe I'll even just pull up some of these little peacock pearl bits that I don't want to get rid of just yet and put those on the outside. Okay, so then what I can do is just roll that in my hands. And then I want to kind of turn this into a little log. And then I'll start twisting the little log. And look at those beautiful stripes. So this could be used for a tube bead or for spacer beads. You could turn this into a lentil bead. But here what you have is yet another colorway to incorporate with your floral and your terrazzo. Another thing you can do is flatten this out. So I'll just get it going with my fingers, and then I'll take my little roller and I'll just go ahead and flatten it. Or you could run it through a pasta machine and flatten it. And I just picked it up and turned it around. And there's another beautiful pattern for your totally coordinated colorway. This could make even more elements for those mix and match earrings that we talked about. So nothing goes to waste. It's all good. It's all beautiful and ready to use. Okay, so that's what you can do with your scraps. So we talked about the hollow bead maker, and what I want to show you next is maybe how you might want to use some of this clay to make beads. And I'm going to show you how to make round beads with the Sculpey bead roller. So Jen showed you the Sculpey bead roller in the box. I think she even took it out and showed you. It has these two outer handles. It has 3 sets of trays, and this is the 18 millimeter. It's the largest one. The trays are marked right here to make it super easy. And then the little measuring cup is also marked 18 millimeter. That way you know you're getting the right measuring cup with the right trays. So you need this much clay to make a perfectly round ball in these trays. So all I have to do is take some of my beautiful marbled clay and start packing it in here in this cup. I really like that clay, so I'm going to make sure it ends up on top. These middle layers of clay are going to be embedded in the beads, so I'm kind of putting my least favorite bits in the middle, and then I'm going to use this real pretty piece to be on the outside. And you just keep packing it in there until it's a little bit overflowing. Make sure it goes all the way in. And then I can pull around from the sides to kind of pile up the excess clay. And then I can shave some of this off because it's a little bit too full. And shoot, now I wasted my good, my plan. I foiled my own plan, but that's okay. You understand the demo. So now what I want to do is just get this clay out of here, because this tells me the volume of clay that I need. Okay. And I'll just sort of roll this into a loose ball with my palms. And this is a great method for people who might feel a little bit challenged to get all their beads the same size. So that's why this tool was invented, for people who have a little bit of a challenge getting beads consistent. Then you just load these trays into the little handles, and they can only fit one way. These little notches line right up with the handles. Okay. Make sure they're well seated in there. And then you just slide one over the top. Okay, my clay is trapped in there. See, it's in between the trays. And to start, though, I just want to make sure that my clay is like in the middle. That's what I want to make sure, like that. So the clay ball is like way in there. It's not like on one end. And then you just go back and forth. And what you're doing is rolling that ball inside there, back and forth. And you get a perfectly round spherical 18 millimeter ball. Okay, so these are great tools. You get 3 different sizes of cups and 3 different sizes of trays. And then once the ball is created, you can load that onto your bead baking rack. And I have one here that's already partially loaded with beautiful beads. So in the bead baking rack, there's this cool upside down V-shaped rack, and that allows you to balance the skewers right in place. You can even use the skewers to poke the hole in the bead however you want. And what I like to do is use a drilling motion with the skewer, and I drill what I think is at least, you know, most of the way through. And then I'll put my finger over here and I can feel the tip coming out. So that looks really good. And now I'll pull the skewer back out with a drilling motion, go all the way back around and push it back through the other way. And here again, that gives you a super nice, neat hole, because that little lip of clay that gets pushed out through the middle, when you go back the other direction, you're just pushing it back inside. And then, like Jen said earlier in the behind the scenes video, this just balances so nicely right on your bead baking rack. The bead's not going to have a flat side. It's completely suspended there above the surface of the baking tray. These skewers are also a great way to sort of audition how you might want to string beads and watch which beads might look nicely, you know, together. And your beads don't have to be round to use the bead baking rack. This is a cube shaped bead. These are some oddly shaped spacer beads. So it's very versatile, and it holds the beads up high enough to keep them from collecting that shine. Okay, let's talk about a few more things about the way bead making can work. I want to also show you a tube bead and some spacer beads, and we'll use we could use the etch and pearls to make these. So I've just got some more scrap clay right here from the colors that we were using, and I'm just compacting it to make sure it doesn't have air bubbles. I'm rolling it to start into a ball, and then I'm going to start rolling it into a rope. Then I like to twist the rope and get lots and lots of nice, delicate stripes. Now, here's the thing about scrap clay. I always think that scrap clay gives you so much prettier stripes than you could ever get by design, because it's scraps and there's like remnants of colors running through it. You're always going to get such delicate and interesting stripe formations that are hard to create, you know, with a plan. All right, what I like to do is make a fairly thick little rod, and I'm going to cut this in half so I can show you a couple different things with the same piece. Okay, so what you can do is you can use one of your etch and pearls. Etch and pearls come, like I said, in 3 sizes, and each shaft of the etch and pearl is a very consistent aluminum thickness, so that it makes super consistent bead piercing holes. Once you get to the middle of that rod, the hole is going to be the same size all the way through. So I'm using a drilling motion, and I'm going to keep at it until I can feel that etch and pearl touch my finger, which it did. Now I'm going to examine that. This looks pretty good. This looks like the etch and pearl popped right out kind of in the middle, which I love. If it had come out kind of off center, I wouldn't be afraid to just poke the etch and pearl through, you know, and straighten that hole out. But this one came out really well. I pulled the etch and pearl out, and I'm putting it back through, aiming for that same hole. And then I'm going to run the etch and pearl through until the bead is in the very middle. How are we doing on time, girls? Am I doing okay? Or
about 15 minutes left.
I have 15 minutes. Okay, I got to kick this in gear. Okay, so what I want to show you here is how to make tube beads, how to make a hole all the way through the tube and make a fairly long bead. And that's how you do it. You put the fat rope on there, and then you roll right around the etch and pearl. Now, if you don't have etch and pearls, you can also use a very straight wire and make a tube bead. And that's a beautiful thing. It makes a really nice drop or something to like a lariat necklace, or kind of a concert style necklace. So now I'm using a rolling motion to trim the ends. And as you roll, the blade comes in contact with the etch and pearl in the middle, and then you get this super straight, nice, beautiful cut all the way around. Then you can just remove the scrap. And look at that beautiful tube bead. So there's a tube bead. Now let's take it one step further. Let's say we want some cute little spacer beads or heshy beads or something like that to add to a jewelry piece. You can just step over like 1/8 of an inch each time. And with that rolling motion, you can make little spacer beads, okay? You bake them right on here. Chances are when it comes out of the oven, those little spacer beads will still be stuck to each other. But even though the clay's baked, you can just cut them apart again with the blade, or sometimes they'll just break apart. And then you can just put this whole thing right in line with your bead baking tray, like so, because it'll work on there too. All right, let's quickly look at making a lentil bead, because those are very popular and fun and beautiful, and they are another great way to use up scrap. So what I have here is 3 colors of, I've got Primo, Galaxy Glitter, 18 karat gold, and Souffle Igloo, and this is scrap clay. And this is the lentil bead maker, which comes in our bead making kit. And what I do is I'll just position this right on the top of the bead and go with the part of the bead that's got a lot of nice color, because that's going to want to swirl around. Now, I might get off camera doing this, but I'll come right back. So what you do is you just put a little pressure with the lentil bead, and then you start going around in circles. You want to hold the lentil bead maker super level to the work surface. You're applying pressure to the ball, and the first thing you're going to notice is that it becomes a bicone, meaning it has a point on the top and on the bottom. And as I'm looking through the lentil bead maker, I can see that beautiful swirl pattern happening. I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back. I promise. And there you go. Look how pretty that is. So there's a nice bicone bead. Okay, but if we want to take it on down to a lentil, what I got to do is get it lined back up under here, and you got to take your swirls the exact same way. And I'm swirling rather kind of in big circles, and then I want to make my swirls smaller and smaller and lower. And then as that happens, you're flattening out those 2 cones, and then you have this gorgeous lentil shaped bead. So it has kind of thin edges and a fat middle, and then it's beautiful on both sides. Included in the bead making kit is this baking pad, and this is perfect for cushioning oddly shaped beads. Plus, I usually don't drill my holes in my lentil beads until after they're baked, and I use like a mechanical electric tool to drill a hole in this, because I never can decide how I want to drill the hole with those until they're baked. So that is the lentil bead. Okay, now we need to talk about liquids. So let's move this stuff out of the way, and I'll spend my last few minutes talking about liquids, because that was the focus of my designer mashup piece that I did this morning. I used our 3D jewelry mold, which is this one, and I made a half round of clear liquid Sculpey, which I mixed with blue alcohol ink. It was a Baja blue, and I put also silver glitter. I also made a lot of these sticks in our 3D jewelry mold. There's 2 of those in here. And I made the sticks, and then I used my sharp blade to cut them into different lengths to create my little dangle charms that are here. These are actually liquid Sculpey beads. I cut them to different lengths, and then I drilled them with my Dremel tool. I also drilled the edges of this piece with my Dremel tool so that I could make connections. Now, these liquid Sculpey pieces are quite strong. I strung through them with eye pins or head pins, and then made my own connectors by curling it with the round nose pliers. So that was the piece I made for the designer mashup, and it was a lot of fun to make, and it was fun to work with all those companies. And so let me give you a couple demos about how to use liquid Sculpey with molds. So here's a mold that already has some pieces in it, and I'm going to show you how that works. So when you use liquid Sculpey, you always want to stir it first. Stir. Get all those ingredients working well together, which I've already done. Now, this is our flat jewelry mold, and it has little posts in each of the shapes. That is built in for your for your jewelry findings. See, in this piece I've already assembled, it was this shape right here. And I used part of my Terrazzo slab to make this little dangle in the middle. But you can see that nice, neat hole that is built right into the mold. And so that's a fantastic thing. So what I like to do is I push the tip of my liquid against that post, and that kind of forces the liquid on both sides of the post, and it forces the liquid to surround the post. And then I just go ahead and fill. And the possibilities are endless with these jewelry molds and with all the colors of liquid that we have. Once I have my mold filled, I want to really tap this well on my work surface. Now, you really don't have to worry about the liquid Sculpey splashing out. It loves to stick to silicone molds, so I've never had it, flop out of there. And I always tap it really well, and you can watch the little air bubbles come to the surface, okay? And this one, I have a couple pieces already molded in, so I'm gonna use it for my baking demo. So I have found that with our flat molds, and because I've used so many kinds of silicone molds in my clay making, like fondant molds and candy making molds, anything silicone is fair game because it can go in the oven. But a lot of times when you have a mold that is slightly thin, like this one or many others on the market, sometimes the mold will warp and create and cause your liquid Sculpey pieces to warp as well. And so I've found a way around this by using a damp towel. And I figured this out because cake makers use damp towels around the outside of their baking pans to make the outside of the cake bake the same time and bake the same not only temperature, thank you for that, but also a cake will have a tendency that the edges bake faster than the middle of the cake. And I was finding that that's what's happening with liquid Sculpey pieces too. And so you have to slow down the curing time, and the wet towel does that for you and keeps it from warping, and it helps the inside of the piece bake the same temperature as the outside. So this is a dish towel that I completely saturated with water, and then I wrung it out as best as I could. Got all the excess water out. And then what you want to do is just build a little, and it doesn't have to be nearly this big, but you just want to build a nice level surface and then put your mold right on top. Then you can bake at the same time and temperature that you normally would for liquid Sculpey. Sometimes I'll go a little longer because my towel is kind of cooling the surface of the mold. So I might go 10 minutes extra, even 15 minutes extra, but at the same temperature, just to help the liquid cure at a slower pace. That's what I'm trying to do, is slow that down. So girls, do I have time to talk about this mold, I hope?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is our 3D jewelry mold, and it is the one that I designed this piece around. And inside that mold, there's a rectangle shape. There is a bullet shape, which is probably my favorite one. There's little cubes. These look like little ice cubes with grapefruits in them. There's the two sticks we talked about, the half round, and it's just a really fun mold. So I want to show you quickly how to use it and how to put things in it. I'm going to show you how to put a variety of things in it and how to use the little rods to suspend your jump rings. So this is the piece I'm going to show you how I did this. This has a gold sparkle bottom, translucent turquoise in the middle, then it's got some alcohol ink, and then gold on the top. So what I want to do is I'm going to start with my clear, and I have stirred this clear. And clear is the one that you really need to stir well. The clear is a whole different thing because it turns out clear. And you can see from the side of the mold that I'm filling it up to about maybe a quarter or a third. The clear wants to separate in the bottle or in anything it's in. And that is the magic of the clear, is that it goes clear. And so you have to help those elements reincorporate together. Oh, you can see it down in there. Now, when I make that bullet shape, I always go in with my needle tool and just prick that very bottom just to make sure it's completely bubble free and down to the tip. So you get that really pretty delicate tip. Okay, next, I'm just gonna sprinkle some art glitter in there. And the reason I'm doing it in this fashion is because I didn't want to mix up a whole bunch of this. I just want to make enough to showcase the glitter in the clear. I didn't want to have a whole bunch of excess, that I was going to have to deal with for other projects. So I just did it this way. Next, I'm going to go in here with one of my favorite stirring tools, and I'm going to incorporate that gold glitter all the way down into the clear. And this way I have no extra, no waste. I'm just filling the part of the mold that I want to fill. But I'm making sure that gold gets, evenly distributed inside the clear. Now, paper towels are a really good way to clean up your tools from Liquid Sculpey, or baby wipes. Just wipe that residue away. Okay. Next, I'm going to add some of our translucent turquoise. And the liquid colors we have a few solid colors like black, white, red, and yellow. We have some translucent colors like translucent turquoise, translucent amber, and we have the one clear, and then we have some metallic colors. So there's a whole line of different colors that are all fun to work with and have their own, properties that make them fun. So with the translucent turquoise, I'm going almost all the way up because I really have 2 layers of the translucent turquoise in the finished piece. I have the translucent turquoise layer here, and then I have one that I tinted with alcohol ink. So next, what I'm going to do, and I want to tap this really well and make sure it's all level. And that's why this mold is made in this translucent color, so that you can see from the side how full it is. Next, I'm just going to add, I'm going to go super fast. I'm just going to add a drop of alcohol ink. And yes, you can use alcohol ink in your Liquid Sculpey. Fun to play with. Puts you in charge of your colors. And then I'm just going to use a needle tool to stir that around, but only in the top area of my translucent turquoise, not the whole thing. Okay, and then I'm going to backfill with gold all the way to the level. So really putting the gold in there all the way to level. Now at home, I would be tapping my mold between all of these layers. Okay. Next, I'm going to take a jump ring, and because this bullet has kind of like a large opening, I prefer to use a jump ring here that takes up more of that space. You balance the jump ring on one of the rods that comes in the mold, and then you just dip it down into the liquid. Then you look for these little raised brackets on the surface of the mold, and that supports your rod right in place. And then just double check that your jump ring is right in the middle. When it comes out of the mold, you have a piece that is ready to string because you already have that jump ring in place. Now, just let me really quickly show you this piece has been baked. And I want to show you how to get the pieces out of the mold. So you want to remove the rods, and then you can just open this up as best as you can. And a helpful tip is that if your piece is really stuck in there, you can add a drop of our liquid clay thinner right between the molded piece. I don't have this open enough. Well, I added a whole bunch of drops. Sorry about that. You just want to get some of the liquid, one drop of that liquid thinner between the clay piece and the side of the mold. And then I use my needle tool to kind of pull that liquid clay thinner all the way around the molded piece. And I'm even going to grab some of this on the side of my needle tool, this spare stuff, and just run it in here. And run it in here. And then these pieces will just come right out. The liquid clay softener is just super duper oily and works as the perfect resist. And look how pretty and shiny that is. Let's take this piece out. They just pop right out, and then it's ready to assemble into your jewelry designs. Then be sure and wipe off the excess clay thinner with a paper towel before you begin your design. So am I out of time, girls?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay, so in 2 minutes, I will tell you fun things to put in your liquid Sculpey. This is chopped up Primo bits. I made a terrazzo encased in clear liquid Sculpey. This was really fun and very pretty. This is a dirty pour of liquid Sculpey where I mixed navy, pink, and white all together in 1 cup and then poured it all at once into the silicone mold. And what else we got? This piece has sand, glitter, and seashells in it, right in the liquid Sculpey, and makes just a cute little memory keepsake. So thank you so much for joining me on the behind the scenes with Sculpey, and I've been honored to show you some tips and tricks today.